All units, be advised, white Ford Bronco. Possible suspect O.J. Simpson inside. The crackle of police radios. The hum of helicopter rotors. The collective gasp of a nation watching television. June 17, 1994, a date that would forever change how America viewed celebrity, justice, and the blurred line between entertainment and tragedy. What started as a murder investigation was about to become the most watched car chase in television history. 95 million Americans would abandon their Friday night plans to witness something unprecedented. A fallen hero's final act of defiance, broadcast live from the freeways of Los Angeles. This wasn't just news, it was spectacle. Before you start, please leave a comment and subscribe to encourage us. Orenthal James Simpson wasn't born famous. He earned it yard by yard, touchdown by touchdown. The kid from the Potrero Hill projects in San Francisco who would become the Juice. University of Southern California's Golden Boy, winner of the 1968 Heisman Trophy. The first player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single NFL season. His smile was as famous as his speed. His charm as legendary as his athletic prowess. O.J. Simpson represented the American dream, realized proof that talent, determination, and charisma could lift you from poverty to penthouse. He wasn't just an athlete. He was an icon, a symbol of possibility in a country hungry for heroes. When his cleats came off, the cameras kept rolling. O.J. Simpson seamlessly transitioned from gridiron to silver screen, becoming one of the few athletes to successfully cross into mainstream entertainment. The Naked Gun trilogy made him a household name beyond sports. But it was those Hertz rental car commercials that truly cemented his place in American culture. The image of O.J. sprinting through airports, leaping over luggage, racing to catch his flight. "Go O.J. Go!" became a national catchphrase. He was everywhere: talk shows, endorsement deals, movie premieres. The all-American success story, the guy you'd want to have a beer with, the celebrity who seemed genuinely happy to be famous. America saw what O.J. wanted them to see: the perfect family man, the devoted husband, the doting father. Photos of O.J. and Nicole at premieres, on vacation, living the California dream in their Brentwood mansion. 2 beautiful children, luxury cars, and a lifestyle that seemed pulled from a magazine. But perfection, especially the manufactured kind, often hides the most devastating truths. Behind the glossy public image, behind the red carpet smiles and carefully staged photo opportunities, a different story was unfolding. One that would shatter not just the Simpson family, but America's faith in its heroes. The man who ran through airports was about to run from something far more serious than a missed flight. He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record. Nicole Brown Simpson's voice, trembling with fear, calling 911 in 1993. Not the voice of a woman living a fairy tale, but of someone trapped in a nightmare. 8 separate domestic violence incidents documented by police. Photos of Nicole's bruised face. A pattern of abuse that stretched back years, hidden behind the glitz and glamour of celebrity life. He gets crazy. He gets O.J. crazy. Those were Nicole's words, preserved forever on police recordings that would later echo through courtrooms and living rooms across America. The hero had a shadow, and that shadow was growing darker with each passing year. By 1992, the fairy tale was officially over. Divorce papers filed, custody battles begun, a marriage that had been America's golden couple reduced to legal documentation and bitter disputes. But divorce didn't end the connection between O.J. and Nicole. It seemed to intensify his obsession with controlling her life. Friends would later testify about his jealous rages, his stalking behavior, his inability to accept that Nicole had moved on. She was trying to build a new life, free from the violence and control that had defined their relationship. He couldn't let go. The man who had once been celebrated for his ability to break away from defenders couldn't break away from his own demons. Nicole Brown Simpson was finally free, or so she thought. Divorced, living independently, dating again. She'd found work as a server at Mezzaluna, an upscale Italian restaurant in Brentwood, where celebrities and socialites dined. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was hers, independence earned through her own effort, not through someone else's fame. She was building genuine friendships, including with Ron Goldman, a waiter and aspiring actor who worked alongside her. Ron was the kind of guy everyone liked: ambitious, friendly, loyal to his friends. Neither Nicole nor Ron could have imagined that their casual friendship would make them targets. Neither could have predicted that their attempts at normal life would lead to their deaths. June 1994. Nicole's mother drops her reading glasses at Mezzaluna restaurant after a family dinner. A simple mistake that would set in motion a chain of events ending in tragedy. Ron Goldman volunteers to return the glasses to Nicole's condo later that evening, a kind gesture from a friend. Meanwhile, OJ is dealing with his own crisis, a relationship with Paula Barbieri that's falling apart, business pressures mounting, and an ex-wife who seems to be moving on without him. The perfect storm of jealousy, rage, and opportunity was brewing. What happened next would transform a domestic dispute into the crime of the century and turn a quiet Sunday night in Brentwood into ground zero for America's most controversial murder case. June 12, 1994. 10:15 p.m. Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman are brutally murdered outside Nicole's Bundy Drive condominium. The scene is horrific. Nicole nearly decapitated, Ron stabbed multiple times in what appears to be a desperate struggle for his life. Blood everywhere. Evidence scattered. A crime of passion that speaks to intimate knowledge of the victim's routines, their vulnerabilities, their trust. The killer knew when Nicole would be alone, knew the layout of her home, knew exactly how to find her. This wasn't a random act of violence or a robbery gone wrong. This was personal. This was about control, possession, and the deadly consequences of obsessive love turned to murderous rage. Within hours, the LAPD had their prime suspect. The evidence seemed overwhelming. A history of domestic violence, no alibi for the time of the murders, and physical evidence that appeared to link O.J. Simpson directly to the crime scene. Detective Mark Furman, who would later become a controversial figure himself, was among the first to voice what seemed obvious to investigators. Blood evidence, hair fibers, a matching glove found at O.J.'s Rockingham estate, it all pointed in one direction. To the detectives working the case, this seemed like a straightforward domestic violence situation that had escalated to murder. They had their suspect, they had their evidence, and they were confident they had their case. What they didn't anticipate was how celebrity, race, and media attention would complicate everything. The prosecution's case seemed airtight. A trail of blood leading from Nicole's condo to O.J.'s white Ford Bronco. More blood found at his Rockingham mansion. A leather glove matching the one found at the crime scene discovered on his property. Hair and fiber evidence linking him to the murders. A cut on his finger that he couldn't adequately explain. His bizarre behavior in the hours after the murders. The rush trip to Chicago, the evasive answers to police questions, the inconsistent timeline of his activities that night. To investigators, it all added up to one inescapable conclusion. But in America, being guilty and being convicted are two very different things, especially when you're famous, wealthy, and can afford the best legal representation money can buy. Johnny Cochran, Alan Dershowitz, F. Lee Bailey, Robert Shapiro. Collectively known as the Dream Team, O.J.'s legal defense wasn't just expensive, it was legendary. These weren't just lawyers, they were legal celebrities, masters of media manipulation and courtroom theater. They understood something that the prosecution initially missed. This case wouldn't be won or lost on evidence alone. It would be decided in the court of public opinion, where celebrity status, racial dynamics, and media narrative could override forensic science. From the moment they took the case, the Dream Team began crafting an alternative story, one where O.J. wasn't a killer but a victim framed by a racist police force determined to bring down a successful black man. The O.J. Simpson case didn't just make news. It transformed news. Cable television found its defining moment, with CNN and the newly launched Court TV providing wall-to-wall coverage. Tabloid newspapers sold millions of copies with increasingly sensational headlines. Talk shows devoted entire segments to analyzing every detail of the case. The line between journalism and entertainment blurred beyond recognition. Suddenly, everyone was an expert on DNA evidence, domestic violence, and criminal procedure. The case became a national obsession, water cooler conversation, and dinner table debate rolled into one. America had never seen anything like it, a real-life drama more compelling than any soap opera, more divisive than any political election, more addictive than any television series. June 17, 1994. After days of mounting evidence and public pressure, Los Angeles District Attorney Gil Garcetti announces that murder charges will be filed against O.J. Simpson. An arrest warrant is issued. O.J. is ordered to surrender to police by 11 a.m. It should have been routine. A suspect turns himself in, gets booked, awaits trial. But nothing about this case would be routine. The man who had spent his life running from defenders was about to run from the law itself. What started as a criminal proceeding was about to become a media spectacle unlike anything America had ever witnessed. The chase that would captivate the nation was just hours away, and nobody, not the police, not the media, not even O.J. himself, was prepared for what would happen next. 11 a.m. came and went. No O.J. Simpson. His lawyer, Robert Shapiro, stood before cameras with no explanation for his client's absence. Police stations buzzed with confusion and concern. Where was the most famous suspect in America? Hours passed. Noon. 1 p.m. 2 p.m. Still no sign of O.J. The man who had always been punctual for football practice, movie shoots, and commercial filming had simply vanished. LAPD commanders found themselves in uncharted territory. How do you arrest someone who doesn't want to be found? How do you handle a fugitive who's also a celebrity? As the afternoon wore on, worry turned to alarm. Had O.J. fled the country? Was he planning something desperate? The answers would come soon enough in the most public way imaginable. While police searched for their missing suspect, O.J.'s friend Robert Kardashian held a press conference that stunned the nation. He read aloud from a letter O.J. had left behind. A rambling, emotional document that sounded disturbingly like a suicide note. First, everyone understand I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life. The letter revealed a man who felt betrayed, misunderstood, and cornered. He expressed love for his children, gratitude for his career, and bewilderment at finding himself cast as a villain. But most chilling were the references to joining Nicole, suggesting that O.J. was contemplating ending his own life. Suddenly, the manhunt took on new urgency. This wasn't just about arresting a suspect, it was about preventing another tragedy. All points bulletin issued for Orenthal James Simpson. The LAPD mobilized every available unit. Helicopters took to the skies. Patrol cars flooded the streets of Los Angeles. Airports were monitored. Border crossings were alerted. The biggest manhunt in LA history was underway, and it was all for one man. A former football star who had captured America's heart and was now breaking it. But where do you look for someone who's famous enough to be recognized anywhere he goes? How do you find a man whose face has been on television screens and magazine covers for decades? The answer would come from an unexpected source. O.J.'s loyal friend Al Cowlings, driving a white Ford Bronco on the 405 freeway, about to make television history. 5:56 p.m. A California Highway Patrol officer spots a white Ford Bronco traveling southbound on Interstate 405. License plate 3CWX503 registered to Al A.C. Cowlings, O.J.'s longtime friend and former NFL teammate. But it's not AC that has police attention, it's the passenger in the back seat, barely visible through tinted windows. Radio chatter confirms what officers suspected. O.A. Simpson is in that vehicle. The order comes down from commanders: follow, don't pursue. The suspect is believed to be armed and suicidal. This isn't going to be a high-speed chase through city streets. This is going to be something entirely different, a slow-motion drama played out on Southern California's busiest freeway, broadcast live to a nation that couldn't look away. What followed defied every expectation of what a police chase should look like. No screeching tires. No dangerous speeds. No dramatic crashes. Instead, the white Bronco crawled along the freeway at a steady 35 miles per hour, followed by a convoy of police cars that looked more like a funeral procession than a pursuit. The LAPD had made a calculated decision. Let this play out peacefully. Don't escalate. Don't force a confrontation that could end in violence. But the result was surreal, the slowest chase in television history, a bizarre spectacle that seemed to unfold in slow motion. Inside the Bronco, A.C. Cowlings gripped the steering wheel while O.J. held a gun to his head, two childhood friends caught in the most public crisis imaginable. Across America, people stopped what they were doing and watched. The NBA Finals were interrupted. Dinner plans were canceled. Families gathered around television sets in a shared moment of disbelief. This wasn't a movie or a television show, this was real life, unfolding in real time, and it was more compelling than any fiction Hollywood had ever produced. News anchors struggled to find words for what they were witnessing. Sports commentators were called in to provide commentary on their former colleagues' final run. The chase had transformed from a police matter into a cultural event, a moment when the entire country paused to witness the fall of one of its heroes. 95 million viewers, nearly half the country, couldn't turn away. Something unprecedented began happening along the chase route. People emerged from their homes, climbed onto freeway overpasses, and began cheering for O.J. Simpson. Not booing, Not protesting. Cheering. Signs appeared, "Go OJ. Go." The same slogan from his Hertz commercials now repurposed for his escape from justice. The crowds were diverse, black, white, Latino, young, old, united in their support for a man fleeing murder charges. To some observers, it was proof of OJ's enduring popularity. To others, it was evidence of how celebrity could override moral judgment. But to those in the crowd, it was simpler. They were witnessing the final act of an American tragedy, and they wanted the hero to make it home safe, even if that hero might be a killer. While America watched from the outside, police negotiators were working frantically to communicate with the Bronco's occupants. Through cell phone calls, still a relatively new technology in 1994, they maintained contact with AC. Cowlings, who served as intermediary between police and his increasingly unstable passenger. The conversations were tense, emotional, and often incoherent. OJ spoke of wanting to see his mother, of saying goodbye to his children, of feeling betrayed by people he trusted. The gun remained pressed to his head throughout the journey. Police psychologists guided the negotiation, trying to keep OJ calm while steering the Bronco toward a safe conclusion. Every word mattered. Every decision could mean the difference between peaceful surrender and tragic ending. The Bronco's destination was never in doubt. 360 North Rockingham Avenue, Brentwood, O.J. Simpson's $6 million mansion. The route took them through some of Los Angeles's most affluent neighborhoods, past landmarks of celebrity culture, through communities where O.J. had been welcomed as a hero. It was a journey through his own life story, from the freeways where he'd filmed commercials to the neighborhoods where he'd socialized with Hollywood's elite. But this trip was different. Instead of celebration, there was desperation. Instead of joy, there was fear. The Bronco moved steadily toward its destination, carrying not just two men but the weight of America's fascination with celebrity, its complicated relationship with race, and its hunger for spectacle even in the face of tragedy. Above the Bronco, a unique aerial ballet was taking place. News helicopters from every major television station in Los Angeles followed the chase, their cameras capturing every moment for live broadcast. The pilots had to coordinate their positions to avoid collisions while maintaining visual contact with the slow-moving drama below. It was unprecedented television, unscripted, unedited, completely unpredictable. The helicopter shots became iconic, the white Bronco dwarfed by the massive freeway system, looking small and vulnerable against the sprawling Los Angeles landscape. These weren't just news crews anymore, they were documentarians of history, capturing footage that would be replayed for decades. The chase was transforming television news, proving that sometimes reality was more compelling than any produced content. As the chase continued, something deeper was being revealed about American society. The crowds cheering for O.J. exposed the complex relationship between celebrity and morality in 1990s America. Here was a man accused of brutal murder, yet thousands of people were rooting for his escape. Cultural critics would later analyze this moment as a turning point, when celebrity worship reached a new extreme, when fame became more important than facts, when the line between entertainment and tragedy was completely erased. The chase wasn't just about O.J. Simpson, it was about America's values, its priorities, and its willingness to elevate celebrities above the law. The country was getting a real-time look at itself, and not everyone liked what they saw. Even as America watched together, it was clear that not everyone was seeing the same thing. Polling data would later reveal a stark racial divide in how the chase was perceived. Many African Americans saw O.J. as a successful black man being railroaded by a racist police force, pointing to the LAPD's troubled history with minority communities. Many white Americans saw a double standard where celebrity status and wealth were providing special treatment that ordinary citizens would never receive. The chase became a Rorschach test for race relations in America, with each community seeing their own fears and frustrations reflected in the slow-moving Bronco. What should have been a simple criminal matter was revealing the deep divisions that continued to shape American society 30 years after the Civil Rights Movement. As the Bronco neared Brentwood, tension reached its peak. What would happen when they arrived at O.J.'s mansion? Would he surrender peacefully? Would he make a final desperate stand? Police had surrounded the property, but they were operating with extreme caution. The whole world was watching, and any misstep could result in tragedy broadcast live to millions of viewers. The negotiators continued their careful work, trying to convince O.J. that his children needed him alive, that suicide would solve nothing, that there were people who still believed in his innocence. Inside the Bronco, Two childhood friends from San Francisco faced the end of the road together. One behind the wheel, one holding a gun. Both trapped in a situation neither could have imagined when they were kids dreaming of NFL glory. 7:57 p.m. After nearly 2 hours on the road, the white Bronco pulled into the driveway at 360 North Rockingham Avenue. But the drama wasn't over. O.J. refused to get out of the vehicle. For another 45 minutes, he sat in the Bronco while police surrounded the property and negotiators continued their delicate work. The gun remained at his head. The nation remained glued to their television sets. This was the most anticlimactic climax in television history. No explosions, no violence, just a man in a car, struggling with the biggest decision of his life. The boy who had once been afraid of nothing was now terrified of everything. Prison, disgrace, losing his children's love, being remembered as a killer instead of a hero. At 8:47 p.m. after what seemed like an eternity, O.J. Simpson finally emerged from the Bronco. But even his surrender was different from what anyone expected. Instead of immediate handcuffs, police allowed him to go inside his house first. He drank orange juice, Tropicana, not the brand he'd once endorsed. He made phone calls to his children. He hugged his friends. He changed clothes. For nearly an hour, the most wanted man in America was treated more like a guest than a suspect. Critics would later call it special treatment based on celebrity status. Defenders argued it was smart police work that prevented a suicide. But everyone agreed on one thing: ordinary suspects don't get to freshen up before their arrest. The chase was over, but the controversy was just beginning. The chase that captivated America for 2 hours would influence the country for decades. It transformed television news, proving that live, unscripted drama could draw massive audiences. It revealed deep divisions about race, celebrity, and justice that continue to shape American society. It turned O.J. Simpson from a beloved sports hero into the most controversial figure of the 1990s. The trial that followed would become equally iconic, with moments like the glove that didn't fit and the verdict that divided the nation. But it all started with that slow-speed chase on June 17, 1994, the day America learned that sometimes the most riveting television isn't fiction but the real-life downfall of its heroes. The chase was over, but the questions it raised about fame, justice, and American society are still being debated today.